Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now in the previous one we looked at the new Assassin's Creed Black Flag remaster running on the minimum spec graphics card. It ran with over 40 FPS most of the time, with some visual sacrifices of course, but today we're putting the new version of the game to the test again, this time with no discrete GPU. This is my Ryzen 5 5600G setup. The 5600G is a 6-core 12-thread CPU with onboard Radeon graphics. I'm using a super basic A320 board and 16GB of 3200MHz dual-channel DDR4. Graphics driver updates aren't as common for older AM4 APUs, and the latest version, 26.5.2, did start the game, but it caused a massive system crash every time. We got the game logo, but never saw the main menu, as it just caused a black screen, and I had to switch my PC off at the power supply. Now we had this issue with Forza Horizon 6, and I needed to use a specific older driver to get that functioning too. I still have it in my downloads folder. It's version 23.10.01.14. Thanks again to Christo Gevajov. Please excuse the pronunciation. This is the channel where I first saw the Forza benchmark and driver info needed to get it running. There's actually a Black Flag benchmark video with lots of AMD APUs over there too, so once again I'll leave a link in the description. With this driver, the game will start, and during my couple of hours of testing, it never crashed. That said, the performance isn't great. While we can make adjustments that improve the frame rate, nothing I did made a significant difference in getting the performance to exceed 30 FPS. So we started at native 720p here with the absolute lowest settings, which is basically nearly everything, set to the ultra low option, with any RT options switched off as well, of course. And we're looking at less than 25 frames per second, basically all of the time. Setting the native output to 1080p and enabling FSR performance will produce a similar visual experience, but it will improve the frame rate slightly. We're looking at between 20 and 30 frames per second now. But you will probably end your gaming session with eye strain, especially if you're looking at the pure blurriness for hours, and this is Black Flag, so it's easy to lose hours to it at a time. I wanted to highlight a few different ways to play because there are a handful of options that will get you close to or around 30 frames per second. The next way is a bit more complex and still requires a high blur tolerance, but I kept the default output at 1080p here. I then set the FSR to custom with a max dynamic resolution of 20% and a resolution scale of 50%. I have no idea if and how these options work together, but I'm assuming that the game is rendering at 20% of an initial 50% output, hence the final presentation here, but it will mean that we get a more consistent 30 frames per second, though there will still be drops. Instead of all this messing around though, we could just use 720p, this time with TAA upscaling set to performance for a similar result. It's perhaps a tiny bit sharper, and it looks a little better if you have a lower res monitor, or you set the resolution in Windows to 1280 by 720 before jumping into the game and doing the same. Before we switch on frame generation, let's look at one final way to achieve a near 30 FPS experience in Black Flag Resynced. This involves selecting 1080p as the default resolution, enabling TAA performance as the upscaling mode because it runs ever so slightly better than FSR, and then enabling dynamic resolution, choosing a target of 60 FPS. Now we won't get anywhere near 60 FPS, and performance is the same if we choose 120 FPS as a target, but we do get slightly better results than if we choose 30 FPS as a target. It's also a bit sharper on the eyes. I actually kept these settings as we moved on to the frame gen gameplay. Now enabling FSR frame gen with a base frame rate this low does not feel great. In fact, it doesn't really feel any better than leaving the option off. Frame gen works best when the starting frame rate is quite high to begin with. It's weird because I can still feel the performance drops, yet there's a very noticeable, very artificial feeling smoothing effect over the top, with a touch of added latency. That said, the performance numbers do look better on paper, and if you're using a newer AM5 APU instead, perhaps an 8600G, then the Black Flag Resynced experience is likely to be a bit more satisfying. All I have at the moment is my good old 5600G, which I think did well to start and run the game today, even if it wasn't what a lot of people would call playable, and required some serious sacrifices. An acceptable effort though from this near 5-year-old CPU with integrated and outdated Radeon graphics in my opinion. But let me know what you think. Thank you as always for watching. If you do have an APU and you are playing this game, let me know how it runs for you of course, and hopefully I'll see all of you in the next one.
Necesitamos mejorar la logística si queremos mantener esas posiciones. Claro, pero es que nos hemos...